Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome back to another live of Wake Up Wednesdays. I am your host, Asia Nasir, founder and Chief Empowerment Officer of Jessica Cares, which is a nonprofit organization where, we're dedicated to empowering teen girls and women and helping them just to become the best versions of themselves. And Wake Up Wednesdays is a byproduct of what we do at Jessica Cares. And before we actually get started, I want to get our Facebook family involved. I don't know why, but Facebook always puts our Facebook family on private so they can't see the video. So before we get started, I just want to make sure that I am making sure that the privacy settings is set for them so that way they can join us as well. All right, they are live with us. So, again, as I was mentioning before, I am the host of Wake Up Wednesdays, which is a byproduct of Jessica Cares, which is an empowerment platform for teen girls and women. And, what we do at Jessica Cares is really help us to develop the tools that are very hard. People want to run away, shy away from, but it is the very thing that helps you to grow and helps you to become the person that you were intended to be, the person that you want to be. And that's authentic, transparent in the right settings, and making sure that you're living your truth and being okay with who you are, flaws and all. So with that being said, Wake Up Wednesdays is kind of like that reset button to help you like kind of wake up to reality of things that are happening, things as I mentioned before that we want to shy away from. And so we do this every other Wednesday, and I come here to talk about different topics that really impact us and really help us to truly thrive and truly, take our lives to the next level. So today is no different. We're going to be talking about a topic with Mother's Day being the month of May. Although we celebrate Mother's Day every day, we definitely want to make sure that this is something that we're practicing and honoring in Mother's Day. And that is the topic that we're talking about, which is bridging the gap, how mothers and daughters can communicate better. Now, I have three children myself, three grown children, two boys and one girl. And I'm going to tell you, there is definitely a difference between raising girls and raising boys. My boys, much easier than raising my daughter. And obviously that's because, as we know, men and women are different. How we think, how we respond to things, we're more from an emotional perspective. So, Assalamu alaikum, Gareth. How you doing? Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much. So, as I was mentioning before, the dynamics between mother and daughter is very different than it would be for a mother and a son. And sometimes during those preteen years, those teenage years, the communication and the relationship sometimes takes a hit. It really does. It takes a hit, and we don't necessarily know how to bounce back. We don't necessarily know how to communicate to get our thoughts across. We're not sure how to bridge that gap. We're dealing with generational differences. I know growing up, I was born in the 70s, raised in the 80s, and my daughter is was raised in late 90s. So very different world, different ways of communicating. And she comes from this tech savvy, social media world where I didn't. So even the way we communicate is very different. How we understand the world is very different. So I can imagine, for those that are tuning in and for those that have daughters, you can relate. So this is a relatable topic, and a lot of us are struggling, in that area, and finding that, the relationship that once was so connected, so close, so bonded, now you're going through a phase in your life and you barely recognize each other. You're barely having communication, and it just seems like there's a consistent tension in the room with you and your daughter, where you don't spend time with each other anymore, and you're choosing not to speak to each other because you're both walking on eggshells as to how to relate and translate your feelings. And so today, as I do with every other Wake Up Wednesday, this is an opportunity for me to share some strategies, some that I've used myself, that worked great with my daughter, and some others that may work great for you and your daughter. And that's what this is all about. This is really just helping you to be able to help you connect with your teen daughter or your preteen daughter who's going through her own level of stages, and you going through yours as well. So let's get right into, these strategies, because these strategies may be life-changing. Wa alaikum salam, Seisha. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. So strategy number one, want to get right into it because I know y'all are like, look, we got to get into this. So strategy number one is what I call the listening chair. And listening for some people, it looks very different. And they relate to that word very differently. Excuse me. Relate to that word very differently. There's a thing called active listening. So I'm not just talking about listening, and I'm not just talking about hearing what someone is saying, but actually listening to what a person is saying and trying to understand them. So I call this the listening chair. And so the listening chair is what you and your daughter can do together. And this is like create a safe space, wherever that safe space is. If it's a common area like the living room, if it's her bedroom, if it's your bedroom, if you have a guest room or you have a patio, wherever your safe space is, where both of you feel like that's your zen place or that's your place to, your calming space, that's where I want you to put this literal chair. It's a literal chair. I'm not talking like, this is the make-believe thing. No, this is a literal chair. It's called the listening chair. And what I want you to do is set a timer anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes. I want you to set a timer, and what you do is each of you take those 3 to 5 minutes. Your daughter has her 3 to 5 minutes where she's just sharing her feelings, sharing possibly her confusions, what her thoughts are about your situation, or maybe something that's currently going on between the two of you. Whatever it is, just let her speak from the heart, and you as the mom do the same. Speak from the heart. But the key to this listening chair is that within those 3 to 5 minutes, neither one of you are allowed to interrupt the other. I don't want you to have a notepad. I don't want you to be preoccupied with anything. I want you to be present in that moment, listening to one another, listening to what your daughter is saying, and you daughters listening to what your mothers are saying. Because all of us have a point of view, all of us have a perspective, and so we need to listen to the other person's perspective, not with the intention to, I'm going to advise you on that thought, I'm going to correct you on that thought, or I'm even going to judge you on that thought. It is just listening from that other person's perspective. And then from there, take the time before you answer, before you respond, or before you react, because especially don't react. So before you respond, ask yourself both of you ask yourself, and this may be a moment now where you want to take out a notepad or something like that, and actually say to yourself, reflect the question before speaking. What did I hear you say? What did I hear you say? So within that 3 to 5 minutes, was I just listening to how I'm going to respond, how I'm going to judge, how I'm going to correct? No. What did I hear you say from your perspective? What did I hear you say? That is active listening. And that's why I call this the listening chair. Just listening to the other person. And when you actually reflect on what that other person is saying, and you ask yourself, what did I hear her say? Whether that's the daughter or whether that's the mom. What did I hear her say from their perspective? And then y'all can have dialogue with that, right? So, and what I want you to do is to do this weekly. This has to be a consistent thing, especially if communication has become strained between the two of you. If communication has become strained, this may be the very thing that helps you to recreate open communication between the two of you. So I need you to do this on a weekly basis. I don't know what this person is doing upstairs, but as usual, they're making noise. So what I want you to do is every week, do this. Pick a day, whatever day works for you. If it's on the weekends, if it's on, before the week starts on Sunday, because both of you are off, I want you to do this exercise. Have this listening chair, and you can even decorate this chair. Make it something that you're both not afraid of. Not, oh, this is the hot chair. I don't want it to be the hot chair. I want this to be the listening chair, where both of you are coming to understand each other. Both of you are coming with no judgment, with no preconceived notions, where I'm just coming to listen to your perspective, so that way I can respond in a better way, and both doing it, not one-sided, but both of you doing this. And I want you to come with the intention, because everything starts with intention. So on a weekly basis, create the intention that when you come together for this listening chair, come with trust and come with the intention of empathy, putting yourself in the other person's shoes, right? Putting yourself in the other person's shoes. So decorate this chair, make this pretty, make this something that, I don't know if you want to put flowers, you want to put butterflies, you want to put, listening ears, things, pictures and things like that. So that way you can, do that. Make this something that you're going into it with the perspective of, this is a safe space. This is a place where this is to build trust. This is the intention, so that way we can build trust, connection, as well as empathy. I want to empathize with my mom, and I want to empathize with my daughter, right? So we saw one of our listeners here, have a beautiful comment. He said, we must also distinguish the difference between hearing and listening. We hear all types and kinds of things. However, we choose not to listen a lot of times. Absolutely, Gareth. Absolutely. A lot of us do that. We have selective hearing. We have selective listening, I should say. We pick and choose what we want. But in the listening chair, it's really paying attention with the intention of understanding each other. And that's why I said, before either one of you respond, because we're always quick to want to respond. You can't speak and listen at the same time. It's just not possible. It's just not possible, right? So listening to what the person is saying is so important, with the understanding of, I want to understand you, I want to empathize with you. So before either one of you respond, I want you to ask that self-reflective question. And even if you need to write it down, I want you to ask yourself, what did I hear you say? So that's the first strategy that you can do. And again, the key to this is that this has to be done on a weekly basis, because if this is a hit and miss, the building of communication is not going to be achieved. It's just not. You're in a space already where it's not a healthy way to communicate. So you have to do something different. And as I always say, nothing changes if nothing changes. So this requires you to have to actually do consistent action and changing the dynamics of the relationship. So that is strategy number one. Strategy number two, I think, is really beautiful. I talk about journaling all the time. I journal. I even showed my children this past weekend, my journal, and how I'm very dedicated to it, and how it helps me to be able to process my feelings and not react to things. Really helped me to kind of pen, what I'm thinking, and being able to reflect as I'm writing. So journaling is so important, and it allows you to go back and reflect. This is the space that I was at. This is the space that I'm in. What can I do in a place of, calm, in a place of calm, and not a reactive place. So this strategy, it kind of does that. And it's called it's a mother-daughter journal, like a shared journal. And what I want you to do is, either one of you can do this at any given time. There's not a set time like the other one where you pick a date. This one is any time that you feel you want to, write something. Sometimes for some of us, communication is different. Some people are more verbal. Some people need to write how they feel, things like that. So we have to be able to be open to different forms of communication. So, and I say this because of the generational gap. We're not talking about just bridging the gap as far as communication, but even from a generational standpoint. I'm more of a verbal person. I like to speak and talk. I call, things like that. Why? Because I come from that generation. That generation, we come from a place of, we like to talk. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have that. So in order for you to speak to a person, you had to call that person on the phone, or you had to be face to face. We come from a generation where children, oh my goodness, we come from a generation where these children are all texting all day long. And sometimes, that has its cons, obviously. But that's the generation that we have to embrace, that this is the generation that they come from. Maybe their form of communication may be different, meaning they're not, they don't verbally speak as much, but they text, meaning they write. Maybe writing is easier for them to express how they're feeling. So, with that being said, allow them to be able to, present this as an option, a shared journal where you get to write your thoughts, you get to write your questions. Maybe they have a question. Maybe your daughter has a question for you, or you have a question for your daughter. Where you can write a question, express how you're feeling, about maybe a particular thing that just happened between the two of you, good and bad. Don't just pen things or share in the journal things when it's a moment of tension or it's a moment of disagreement. But also put things in there like, I really liked when you did this, or I really appreciated when you said that. That's also important. Making sure that it's not just this journal is just about event section. This is an opportunity for you to be able to share how you feel, good and bad. So that person, it's a balance thing. And in my faith, everything, revolves around balance. It's not all one-sided. You don't go too much to the left and you don't go too much to the right. You have a balance. So that's a common way for you to be able to come and communicate, where you may be more of a verbal person, the older generation, and the other person may be, your child, coming from that generation where writing is maybe a better way for them to communicate how they feel. And then what you do is, if there is a question posed in the shared journal, what you can do is commit, both of you commit that within 48 hours or 72 hours, whatever time frame you choose, to respond to that question. Don't leave that question, because a lot of times when it's uncomfortable, we want to avoid it. This is something that is a safe space for you to be able to express your feelings. So if someone poses a question, whether mom or daughter, this is an opportunity for you to commit to responding to that. And this gives you time. Sometimes you want to respond quickly, and that's not the best time. Sit with that question, ponder on that question, and then pen that question in the shared journal and respond within the time that you've given. So that way, this is an honored shared journal, that we understand that we're going to respect each other's questions. We're going to respond to the questions. We're going to be fair. And again, this is all about building connection, trust, and empathy. And yes, Gareth, you're correct. We must be humble enough to adapt our communication modalities. Exactly. We have to be humble enough. I come from a generation where it was my way and no way, and that didn't work. While my parents' generation definitely has its pros and good things, and good things that we do, good things that I was taught, it also had its cons, and a lot of times we felt unheard and unseen. And there was even that phrase, "Children are seen and not heard." Well, that's not okay. Your children do have thoughts, your children do have feelings, and they need to be heard, they need to be seen and understood. And that teaches your children confidence, and it teaches your children that what they feel and what they have to say is important. Granted, that is done in respect. Granted, that is done in respect. My mother used to tell me all the time, you can say whatever you want to say with me, as long as you remember who you're speaking to. And that was always important, because it gave the open line of communication. However, it also gave the boundary in speaking, that when we do this, even in conversation that's uncomfortable, let's just remember who we're speaking to. This is your parent that you're speaking to. So that was important. So they definitely had their pros in that, but we have to adapt. We have to be humble to understanding that children may have a different way of communicating, and we need to be open to that. So a shared journal may be a way that you two can bridge the gap and communicate more effectively. So that's strategy number 2. Strategy number 3 is what I call switch the script, right? This may be, and this can be fun. And this is why I love this particular strategy, because this can actually be a lot of fun, but also a teaching moment for both of you. So what what I'm talking about when I say switch the script, is actually trading places. It's actually trading places with that person, you being the mom and you being the daughter. So take a particular situation that maybe you're currently going through, or maybe, that you just went through and you were having a difficult time going through it. Oh, we have some comments here. I'm loving the engagement. So it says, before I get into that strategy, I want to read this. We must make better efforts to understand the realities of generational gaps between father and child, mother and child, parent and child. Absolutely, this needs to be something intentional, and that's why when I do this, I always make sure that we have actual exercises, implementation, things that you can actually try, because it has to be something that is intentional. It can't be a hit or miss. And we have the irony is that the seen and not heard open the floodgates for child abuse on all levels. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Silence is something else. Silence is something else. And I was raised in that generation where you didn't speak about what happened in your home. You didn't. And so there were a lot of children, myself included, because I'm open. I'm an open book when it comes to certain things that happened to me in my childhood to offer empowerment. I was molested as a child. I didn't talk about it, not even with my family, at 8 years old. And I didn't talk about it until I was 40. And I opened up to my father. So yes, that seen and not heard thing and all of that, absolutely. A lot of not so good things came from that, right? Seisha said, when our children aren't heard, it creates a timidness and lack of confidence, right? Because we're not honoring their voice. They do have feelings, they do have something to say, and we're telling them, yeah, it's not important. And then we expect them to be confident adults. It's not going to happen. We've told them that their voice is not important. So they accept that, they embrace that, they internalize that, and that affects them, in their older years. So absolutely, absolutely, right? We have Saida saying sometimes you're listening, but you're not hearing what the child is saying. Absolutely. We do it all the time. We do it all the time. And this is why, when they get to those preteen stage and those teenage years where they get a little more bold about what they want to say, um, a lot of times that's why the communication has, just gone by the wayside, because it wasn't taught how to communicate effectively. So there's not an understanding of active listening. There's not an understanding of voicing your opinion. You have so much bottled in. You feel so full sometimes as a teenager, that you're just putting it all out there, and it's coming out in a way that's aggressive. And so here is an opportunity for you both to learn with each other and grow with each other, and how you can communicate more effectively. And some of the things that we can take from, our upbringing, but some things, if it's not serving you well, you got to do something different. And again, if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? So going back to what I was saying, strategy number 3, which is switch the script. Switch the script is, try to say that 3 times. Switch the script means trading places, putting yourself, so talk about empathy, putting yourself in the other person's shoes. Take an opportunity to, maybe it was a recent thing that you disagreed about. Maybe this was something that you just kind of came from, but there's still a little tension, right? This is a way to lighten the mood, but also to be able to see where the other person is coming from. So when you say switch the script, take that common thing, and this, your kids are going to love this. I want you to record this. Kids love recording. They take out their phones for everything, right? This is an opportunity where you're giving them permission. Yes, record this. And what you do is you switch the script. You bring out that topic or whatever it is that you're having difficulty with, or you're having a alignment with. You play the mom, the daughter. You play the mom, and what your mom would say and what she typically says, how she acts. And you as a teenager, you do the same thing, mom. How she acts, the rolling of the eyes, the neck, and all that. Do the whole thing. And you girls that are listening, do the same thing. Imitate your mom, how she acts. Does she cut you off? Does she say certain things like, does she put her hands on her hips? What I say, do the whole thing and record it. You'd be amazed of what you see. Because how many times do we say things and we reflect and go, oh Lord, I sound just like my mother. Oh my God, I sound just like my grandmother. And those were things that we didn't like. And we're like, I've become her, right? So when you get to record this, it also, it builds an opportunity for you to laugh, and you got to find some, lightness in a tense moment. This allows you to laugh and kind of poke fun at one another in a gentle way, but it allows you to see yourself. That's how my daughter sees me. That's how I talk to her. I do know I say those things, and that's how it's coming across. As a daughter, you get to see, wow, ooh, that doesn't look very respectful. That I'm talking over my mom, I'm raising my voice, all of those different things, that those dynamics that happen in communication. It allows you to see yourself. A lot of times when we're in ourselves, we're too in it, obviously, to see ourselves. But when you record it and then play it back, it allows you to hear what you sound like, and it allows you to see what you look like and why the responses are coming the way they are. Maybe your message is not being received because of that. So Gareth put, empathy is being compassionate regardless of whether one has a shared experience with another person or in spite of not having a shared experience with another person. Exactly. Exactly. Empathy is, and it's not the same as sympathy. Sympathy could be, I feel sorry for that person, that was really bad that happened. Empathy is actually feeling, or empathizing and putting yourself in that person's shoes. That's a different situation, and there's a different response because of it. So switch the script, allow yourself, and humble yourself. Seeing yourself is not easy. Seeing yourself is not easy, but it is so necessary to healing and so necessary for you being able to open the lines of communication with your daughter. And last strategy here, this I saved this for last because this is something that I did with each and every one of my children, not just my daughter. I did this with my sons as well. And that's what I call a monthly date, or monthly date and discover. What I did was I picked a day every single month that I would go out with my children one on one, not as a group. I mean, obviously we had our family outings and things like that, but I specifically had dates with my children. With my oldest son, we had our one-on-one time. With my youngest son, I had my one-on-one time, and with my daughter, I had my one-on-one time. And this is so important because a lot of times we feel like siblings, they're close, and yes, you may have raised your children to be close and to love one another. However, sometimes they don't feel comfortable opening up in front of their siblings, especially when it's a boy girl type situation. What girls are going through in those preteen and teenage years is very different from what boys are going through, and they may not feel comfortable talking about certain things in front of their siblings. However, if they had that one-on-one time with you, it can make all the difference in the world of you discovering. And that's why I call it monthly date and discover, because you may discover certain things that only but for the fact that you spent that quality one-on-one time, you were able to find that out. You were able to discover that's what your child was going through. So take that, and it doesn't have to be expensive. It could be a Starbucks, run where you're sitting down just drinking coffee or tea, and you're able to talk about, whatever. It could be a walk in the park, especially now with the weather changing. This may be a great opportunity for you to be able to take a walk with each other and talk. Maybe going to a bookstore. That was my daughter's favorite because she's an avid reader and now a writer. She loved, loved, loved going to the bookstore. So that was our favorite spot. And Barnes and Noble have spaces where you can sit, libraries, you can go and do that as well. Or, this was my favorite, which is Manny Petty's. My boys was restaurants. My boys like to eat. My son's favorite was IHOP, you know what I mean? And my other son was anything that was Italian or, food or Spanish food. That was his favorite, right? So your kids have their likes, but you let them choose. Where would you like to go? And you can let them know if it's a budget. Hey, mom's on a budget. And then let them choose something, a place for you to go, or maybe it's just a walk. So it doesn't have to be where you have to spend money. But these monthly dates was not about, this got to be a teaching moment. This has to be something that I'm going to share with them and correct them on something. This is just about being present. This is just about being present and talking about things. And if you want to discover something, this was a question that I asked them every time I had my monthly meetings with my kids. And this was a question that some of us are afraid to ask, but it's necessary to ask. And I would ask my children, what's something that you wish mommy understood better about you? Right? That's what I used to ask my children all the time. What's something that you want mommy to understand better about you that you feel mommy's not doing right now? And I used to share, what we like about each other, what I love about my kids, what I'm proud about with my kids, what's happening in mommy's entrepreneurial world, things like that. We used to share things like that. What's happening at school? What are their goals and aspirations? You'd be amazed at what you find out. How's school? How's your friends? What's happening? You'd be amazed at what you find out. So these are the strategies that I wanted to share with you today on bridging the gap and, creating that mother-daughter communication that can be more effective, excuse me, and better. And this is all about, again, not about correction, but connection, right? Correction will come, but you being able to use some of these strategies is going to be a way for you to be able to grow together, to learn together, and you can possibly self-correct because you're humble enough to understand that we have our differences and understand that your child is growing. I'm speaking to the mothers right now. Understand that your child, your daughter is growing. They're developing, they're going through hormonal changes, those preteen and teenage years, they're going through a lot. This society, this is different. Where they're living in a different times, they have different pressures that could be affecting them. So be understanding, give them grace. And daughters, I'm speaking to you. Understand that mommy came from a different generation and that they're trying to understand you. They're trying to understand and navigate this different way of doing things. So give mommy some grace as well. And that's the whole point of listening to one another, empathizing with one another, connecting with one another. There is something that everyone can benefit from. I've learned so much from my children, and they've learned so much from mommy. So I pray that for you. And me and my daughter, we're still a work in progress because I'm changing. I'm perimenopausal now, so I got different things going on. I'm older. My daughter's getting older, so things that she didn't understand before, she's understanding now that I was sharing with her. But she's also going through her changes as she's growing into, the woman that she's purposed to be. So, we're all constantly growing, constantly, having aha moments and epiphanies. Give each other grace to be able to self-discover. And remember, this is about both of you growing. And again, give yourself grace with this process and with this journey. So again, make sure you take nothing else. It's not about correcting, it's about connecting. So until our next live, which is going to be in 2 weeks, stay tuned. And if you haven't done so already, or if you just came in mid, and you're like, oh, I missed it, the replay will be here on Facebook. But I want you to go to our YouTube channel, which is Asia Nasir 2014. And I'm going to type it in here in the comments here. You can find my YouTube channel here where you can replay, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because the notification bell will let you know each and every time when we have a live, and you can jump in and not miss a thing. So again, I love this time with you. I do have to hop on now and go on to Instagram to share with our Instagram family all of the strategies that we just talked about. So if you're following me on Instagram, go to Jessica Cares 1 and you can and tune in on that as well. So thank you so much for all of you engaging, your wonderful comments. I have the comments here. I'm going to leave it here. Please share this video for a mama that's struggling, or for a daughter that's struggling that you feel can benefit. Share this video with them, and make sure you like this video so that way we can grow our presence and the knowledge and the content that we're putting out here on Jessica Cares. So thank you again, and I'll see you, God willing, in a couple of weeks.